Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Sourdough Master Class. This is episode 4, The Bake. In the last episode, our dough proofed for several hours and was shaped into its final rest. Now our dough should have rested for at least 2 hours before this episode. Mine has rested overnight in the fridge. We will score and then place the dough in a Dutch oven and let it bake for 45 minutes, removing the lid after the first 25 minutes. There are a couple of things I forgot to talk about in this video. The first is that we are preheating the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Then once you place the bread in Dutch oven inside, turning it down to 425. The second is after 25 minutes in the oven, we take the lid off the Dutch oven and continue to bake for another 20 minutes or until golden brown. Though I talked about it in the episode, I did forget to record it. With all that said, let's get into it.
Welcome back. It's a new day. Your dough has probably been sitting in the fridge for 2 to 3 hours, or has been proofing outside of the fridge for an hour or two also. I like to put my dough in overnight. It's actually called, and I know this is kind of a funny term for this day and age, it's actually called retarding the dough. Essentially just slows down the proofing process, lets things really get intermingled, lets things create structure and whatnot. So now I'm gonna put this is my Dutch oven. Considering we made a circular loaf, I'm gonna put my loaf inside here, lay it on some parchment paper, throw it in there, and then throw it in the oven. But before I do that, we do need to preheat our Dutch oven in our oven too. Right, that way when we take the bread out, throw it in here, it's nice and hot already. It'll get a good crust in the bottom, good crust all the way around. So I'm going to put this in my preheating oven right now. And we're going to leave it in there for a good half hour. We want the Dutch oven to get ripping hot along with that oven. So, oven is preheating to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Let that preheat for a good half hour, get really nice and hot, and then we'll take the bread out, score it, and throw it in there for 30 to 35 minutes. Alright, I'll talk to you guys then. Alright, before we get our Dutch oven out, I wanted to show you what my dough looks like now. It's been sitting in the fridge overnight. If I press on it, it springs back really well. Right, it's nice and proofed. Normally, when you score the bread before you put it in the oven, most bakers use a very sharp tool. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I'm just going to use a knife. I have this serrated knife. It's pretty damn sharp. I can just cut it. You can make a square, you can make an X, you can make just one line. I'll probably go with a square. Squares look pretty good. So we'll do that. I'm going to get out the Dutch oven right now. Again, this thing is ripping hot, so make sure get some good pot holders. I'm also, actually, before I do this, I'm going to get some parchment paper and a cutting board. Parchment paper just so I can slide it off really easily, straight into the Dutch oven. Cutting board, we'll see in a sec. I'm going to flip it onto the cutting board. That's what we'll do. I'm going to put this on here. Flip it. Take it out. If it sticks at all, just slowly pry it away. Not a big deal. Put our bread basket to the side. Looking pretty good. Yeah, look at that. Alright, take the Dutch oven out now. And for this, you're going to want a spray bottle too. We'll take that lid off. Alright, we'll get our spray bottle. Alright, let's score our dough. Okay, I'm going to try to do a bit of a square. Don't worry about cutting it deeply, not a big deal, you can cut it pretty deep. Toss that in there, I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake, make sure it's all evened out. Alright, And then with our spray bottle, I got this one right here. Let's stick it over here. We're just gonna spritz it a couple times, create some steam. Throw the lid back on, nice and tight. Throw it back in the oven. From here on out, we'll set a timer for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, we'll take the lid off and then set another timer for another 20 minutes. And then that'll be the end of our baking. We'll let it cool before we cut into it. All right, I'll see you again in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. All right, so we just took the bread out of the oven. Again, 25 minutes with the lid on. After 25 minutes, take the lid off. It's gonna be super hot. And then 25 more minutes, and then after that, take the bread out. All right, one way to check if the bread is ready to come out is I'm gonna use a glove for most of this because it's still super hot, is to give it a little tap, right? It sounds hollow, like there's not something underneath it, right? Sounds like there's a little bit of space and some air in there. Sounded good. All right. If it sounds dense, that means it might need another couple minutes. If it sounds really hard, like you're tapping on a countertop, right? That's not what we want. We want something nice and hollow, something airy. If you give it a little crack, it should crackle a bunch too. Ooh, that sounds good. All right, again, it's still super hot. It's pretty warm in my fingers, so we'll give it some time to rest. It has to cool down before we cut that open. If we cut that open right now, all of that good steam is gonna come flying out, and we're gonna get a dry bread. All right, we have to let this cool down. All right, so let this cool down, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, we'll cut it open and see what it tastes like. All right, bread has rested long enough. It's nice and cool. I think it is high time to cut into this. We got some softened butter, a little bit of homemade apricot jelly. Let's cut her open. Ooh, man, it's crunchy. Thank you for your service, Dimitri. Put the wrap real quick. Oop. Ooh, yeah. Alright, and I'm making a mess. My goodness. A little bit of butter going. I need more than that. There we go. Hey, if you just want to stop there, just straight up butter, I would not blame you. I'm gonna try this jelly though. Got this a couple weeks ago. There we go. Smells amazing. Give it a mix. Ooh, that is thick. God, that is super thick. Oh my god, wow. Alright, just need a little bit. Yeah, I don't even know if I'd call that jelly. It is a thick jam. My goodness. Alright, here we go. Mm-hmm. That is some good bread. Man, I could just eat that for breakfast. Shoot, cut another slice off. Make grilled cheese, my goodness. Well, seriously. A little bit of cinnamon sugar toast in the morning. Throw on a little bit of butter, some jam, make some sourdough French toast. You got an old loaf, cut it up into cubes, make some sourdough croutons. Yeah. That's some good bread. Alright. Well. thanks for coming along this journey. I hope you've learned something about making sourdough, and I hope you try it for yourself. Again, if you've looked at my website, your first loaf may not look like this, right? It took me several tries before I figured out how to get it to look like this, how to get the inside to look nice and baked through too. First couple times, I couldn't even get it to spring. See, like, look at this right here. That's the spring. Looks like you cut it right here a little too shallow. Didn't get the whole square coming out of it, but it still looks really good. Got all the bubbles going right here too. Looks really good. It doesn't really matter what it looks like on the outside, as long as it tastes great on the inside. I don't think anybody's gonna really care unless you're baking in a professional bakery that the bread is gonna look like it does in the movies or it does in the commercials, right? But at the end of the day, if it tastes good, it's great. All right, so that's what I say. But seriously, yeah, thank you guys for coming along. Again, I hope you learned something. I hope you try it at least once, if not a couple times. Again, you got to get a couple times to get the touchdown. But yeah, thanks guys.